The Universal Council chamber fell silent as the footage played. 12 different species of galactic representatives watched in stunned disbelief as a lone human female survived what should have been certain death. "Play it again," demanded High Commander Vex, his 6 eyes blinking in rapid succession. The holographic display reset, showing a small research vessel caught in an asteroid field. The shields failed catastrophically, followed by hull breaches on multiple decks. The alien diplomats watched as all crew members evacuated except for one human. "This specimen, designation Lieutenant Kate Mercer, refused evacuation," explained Science Officer Lortha. Her blue scales shimmered under the chamber lights. The human stayed behind to manually pilot the damaged vessel clear of the asteroid field when the guidance systems failed. "Impossible," rumbled Ambassador Tolk, his rock-like features hardening further. The temperature in that cabin dropped to near freezing. The radiation levels were beyond survivable parameters. No species could function in those conditions without protective equipment. Lortha's antennae twitched. The human not only survived, but managed to navigate through the densest part of the field with nothing more than visual guidance and what they call instinct. The council members shifted uncomfortably. Humans were the newest species admitted to the Galactic Federation, and many had voted against their inclusion. Their home planet, Earth, was classified as a death world by galactic standards, with extreme temperature variations, high gravity, and an atmosphere rich in corrosive oxygen. "What we find most interesting," continued Lortha, "is that when interviewed afterward, Lieutenant Mercer claimed she was just doing her job and seemed confused by our interest." Ambassador Glissa of the Archivist Collective raised a tendril. "We have been collecting data on humans for 2 standard cycles. Their survival capabilities exceed anything in our records. They function effectively with minimal sleep, can ingest substances toxic to most species, and heal from injuries that would be fatal to the rest of us." "They're dangerous," stated Commander Vex flatly. "Perhaps we made a mistake bringing them into the Federation." First Minister Rel, the oldest member of the Council, spoke for the first time. "Or perhaps they are exactly what we need." The ancient being's voice was barely above a whisper, but everyone fell silent. "The Void Scourge grows stronger at the edges of our territory. Our conventional defenses are failing. We need unconventional solutions." Vex's appendages twitched in agitation. "You're not suggesting we deploy humans to the frontier?" "I am suggesting," said Rel carefully, "that we learn more about their capabilities. This Lieutenant Mercer, for instance. Bring her here for evaluation." The council erupted in protests, but Rel raised a withered hand. "The decision is made. Lortha, your science division will oversee the testing. We must understand what these humans are truly capable of." Lortha bowed in acknowledgement, though her scales darkened with concern. "As you wish, First Minister. Though I must note for the record, humans are remarkably unpredictable when placed under stress." "That," said Rel with something resembling a smile, "is precisely what I'm counting on." 3 days later, Lieutenant Kate Mercer stood in the antechamber of the Council facility, puzzled by her sudden summons to Galactic Federation headquarters. She adjusted her standard-issue uniform, uncomfortable under the artificial gravity settings that felt too light for her Earthborn physiology. A door slid open, and Science Officer Lortha entered. "Lieutenant Mercer," the alien said, "welcome to Centauri Station. I apologize for the abrupt invitation, but the Council has taken a special interest in your recent achievement." Kate frowned. "I just did what anyone would do." Lortha's inner eyelids flickered, the equivalent of raised eyebrows. "That, Lieutenant, is precisely what we intend to find out." The testing facility was unlike anything Kate had ever seen. Smooth, white walls curved into a dome overhead, with various apparatuses hanging from ceiling tracks like mechanical stalactites. Alien scientists of different species monitored consoles around the perimeter. "This feels like overkill for a standard physical," Kate remarked, eyeing a particularly menacing device that resembled a cross between a medical scanner and an industrial drill. Science Officer Lortha made a sound that might have been a laugh. "This is far from standard, Lieutenant. The Council wishes to understand human adaptability." "I'm just a pilot," Kate protested. "You are a human who survived conditions that would kill most sentient beings," Lortha corrected. Now please change into these. She handed Kate a set of form-fitting garments that resembled a cross between a wetsuit and sensor equipment. The first test seemed simple enough. A controlled environment chamber where temperature, pressure, and atmospheric composition could be varied. Kate stood in the center as the parameters began to shift. Commander Vex observed from the control room. Begin with temperature variations. Let's see how the human responds to extremes. The chamber cooled rapidly. Most species in the Federation required environmental suits below freezing, but Kate merely hugged herself and shivered as the temperature dropped to 10 degrees 6. Fascinating, murmured a scientist named Trill. Her core temperature is dropping, but her cognitive functions remain unimpaired. Humans evolved on a planet with seasonal variations, Lortha explained. They can temporarily endure significant temperature fluctuations. They raised the temperature next. At 40 degrees 6, Kate was sweating profusely, but remained standing and alert. Enough, Vex ordered. Move to atmospheric testing. The air composition changed, becoming thinner. Kate's breathing quickened, but her vitals remained stable far longer than expected. When they increased the carbon dioxide levels, she simply adapted her breathing pattern instinctively. "This is nothing," Kate called out, guessing they could hear her. "Try growing up in Denver. The air there is so thin, visitors pass out trying to climb a single flight of stairs." The alien scientists exchanged glances. Vex's upper limbs twitched with irritation. "Physical stress testing next," he ordered. A section of the floor began moving like a treadmill. Kate jogged steadily as the speed increased, her heart rate rising, but stabilizing at each new level. After 30 minutes at a pace that would exhaust most species, she was tired but functional. "Perhaps we need something more challenging," suggested Vex. The next sequence involved problem-solving under duress. Kate was presented with complex mechanical failures to repair while environmental conditions deteriorated around her. What amazed the observers wasn't just that she completed the tasks, but how she improvised solutions using available materials in ways their simulations hadn't predicted. "Humans call it thinking outside the box," Lortha explained to the bewildered scientists. "They excel at non-linear problem-solving." After 12 hours of continuous testing, Kate was exhausted but still standing. The final test involved isolation. They placed her in a featureless room with minimal stimulation to observe her psychological response. To their surprise, she simply sat down, closed her eyes, and appeared to enter a meditative state. "What is she doing?" Vex demanded. "I believe," Lortha said, checking the neural monitors, "she is intentionally resting while remaining alert. Humans call it cat-napping, a technique their military personnel develop for sustained operations." When Kate emerged from the testing chamber, she found First Minister Rel waiting alongside the science team. "Impressive, Lieutenant Mercer," the ancient alien said. "Most impressive indeed." Kate straightened her posture despite her fatigue. "Thank you, Minister, though I'm still not sure what this was all about." Rel's expression was unreadable. "Tell me, Lieutenant, have you heard of the Void Scourge?" The briefing room buzzed with tension as holographic displays showed the advancing Void Scourge, a devastating, almost incomprehensible force consuming star systems at the edge of Federation space. The images showed what looked like living darkness, a roiling mass of energy that devoured light and matter alike. "We first encountered them 3 standard cycles ago," explained Admiral Jax, a veteran of the Federation Defense Force. His exoskeleton clicked nervously as he gestured to the display. "They've consumed 17 settled worlds since then. Conventional weapons are ineffective." Kate studied the tactical readouts with a growing sense of unease. "And you think humans can help with this? How exactly?" First Minister Rel stepped forward. "The Void Scourge appears to be particularly vulnerable to unpredictability. Their consciousness, if we can call it that, seems to function on predictive algorithms. They anticipate standard defense protocols with perfect accuracy." "But humans," interjected Lortha, "are anything but standard or predictable." Commander Vex made a derisive sound. "The Minister believes your species' irrational decision-making and primitive survival instincts might be useful. I remain skeptical." Kate ignored the insult. "You want to send humans to fight this thing? I'm just one lieutenant. I can't speak For Earth's military. We're not asking you to, Rel said softly. We're asking you to demonstrate what humans can do. A proof of concept, if you will. Admiral Jax brought up another display showing a small Federation outpost on a moon designated HD-197. The Scourge will reach this research station within 3 days. Evacuation is impossible due to ionic disturbances in the region. The scientists, they are conducting crucial work on transdimensional physics. You want me to defend the outpost, Kate realized. Not defend, corrected Rel. Survive. Extract the research team and their data. We've lost 27 extraction teams already. Kate studied the tactical situation. The outpost was isolated, poorly defended, and directly in the path of an unstoppable cosmic horror. Any rational assessment would deem the mission suicidal. I'll need equipment, she said finally. The council members exchanged surprised glances. You're accepting the mission? Vex asked incredulously. Kate shrugged. Someone has to get those scientists out. Might as well be me. Within hours, Kate found herself aboard a small, fast ship called the Pathfinder, reviewing mission parameters with a reluctant crew of 4 aliens who had been assigned to her. The ship is yours to command, Lieutenant, said Pilot Officer Nix, a slender, 4-armed being with remarkable reflexes. Though I must register my formal protest. This mission has a probability of success calculated at less than 2.7%. Never. Tell me the odds, Kate replied with a grim smile, earning confused looks from the crew. Engineer Ziv, a stocky reptilian with incredible technical skills but limited social graces, approached with concern. The equipment you requested makes no sense. Primitive projectile weapons? Incendiary devices? These aren't effective against the Void Scourge. I'm not planning to fight the Scourge, Kate explained, checking her gear. I'm planning to survive it. The final crew members were Medic Pell, a gelatinous being with extraordinary healing abilities, and Science Specialist Dorn, a multi-eyed insectoid who could process vast amounts of data simultaneously. As the Pathfinder prepared for departure, Commander Vex made a final inspection. He approached Kate with obvious disdain. I want to be clear, human. I believe this mission is folly, and you will likely doom this crew with your recklessness. Kate met his gaze evenly. With all due respect, Commander, you haven't seen reckless yet. The Pathfinder launched into the void, accelerating toward the distant research station and the advancing cosmic horror beyond it. From the command deck, Kate watched as the stars streaked past, acutely aware of the doubtful glances from her alien crew. Set course for HD-197, she ordered, and prepare for unconventional tactics. Pilot Nix's appendages moved gracefully across the controls. Define unconventional, Lieutenant. Kate's expression hardened. Everything they don't teach at Federation Academy. The Pathfinder dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the HD-197 system, immediately engaging stealth systems. Through the view screen, the advancing edge of the Void Scourge was visible, a shimmering darkness that seemed to bend the very light around it. We're detecting multiple Federation distress beacons, reported Science Specialist Dorn, his compound, eyes processing the sensor data. All from vessels that attempted extraction before us. Kate studied the tactical display. And the research station? Still intact, Dorn confirmed. But the Scourge will reach it in approximately 7 hours. Pilot Nix's appendages twitched nervously. Standard approach vectors are all compromised. The Scourge has established what appear to be sensory tendrils throughout the system. Then we don't use standard vectors, Kate decided. Ziv, I need you to reconfigure our engine signature to match background radiation. Dorn, identify the system's largest celestial body with a significant magnetic field. The crew exchanged glances but moved to follow her orders. The gas giant in the outer system, Dorn reported. Designation HD-197G. Massive magnetic fluctuations, severe gravitational interference. Perfect. Kate smiled grimly. Nix, plot a course that takes us through the planet's upper atmosphere, using its magnetic field to mask our approach. The pilot's eyes widened. That would subject the ship to extreme stresses. The probability of structural failure is less than the probability of being detected by the Scourge, Kate interrupted. Trust me on this. Against their better judgment, The crew prepared for the dangerous maneuver. The Pathfinder shuddered violently as it skimmed the churning atmosphere of the gas giant, alarms blaring as the ship's structural integrity was tested to its limits. Hull temperature approaching critical, warned Ziv from engineering. We cannot maintain this trajectory for more than 47 seconds. We only need 30, Kate replied, strapping herself more securely into the command chair. Nix, on my mark, full emergency thrust and execute the slingshot maneuver around the magnetic pole. The pilot's multiple hands worked frantically across the controls. This is not recommended by any flight protocol. Mark, Kate shouted. The Pathfinder's engines roared to life, using the planet's gravity and magnetic field to catapult the vessel on an erratic trajectory toward the research station. The maneuver taxed the inertial dampeners to their limits, causing the crew to strain against crushing G-forces. When the ship stabilized, Medic Pell oozed anxiously toward Kate. 3 crew members have sustained minor injuries from that maneuver. Lieutenant, I must protest. Sensor analysis confirms the Void Scourge did not detect our approach, interrupted Dorn with a note of surprise. We've emerged undetected on the far side of HD 197's third moon, with direct access to the research station. Kate nodded. Good. Now comes the tricky part. Ziv, I need you to prepare the equipment packages I specified. Nix, bring us in on minimal power, using the moon's shadow for cover. The Pathfinder glided silently toward the research station, a collection of domed structures perched on the barren surface of a small moon. As they approached, the true scale of the impending disaster became clear. The edge of the Void Scourge loomed on the horizon like an approaching storm front of absolute darkness. Opening communication channel, Dorn announced. The view screen flickered to life, showing the haggard face of the station's director, an older alien with translucent skin that revealed pulsing organs beneath. This is Director Lin of Research. Station HD 197, the alien said, voice quavering. We did not expect a rescue attempt. The Void approaches. Lieutenant Kate Mercer, Federation Vessel Pathfinder, Kate responded. We're here to extract your team and your research. How many personnel? 12 scientists, but... Director Lin hesitated. Our research cannot be moved. The dimensional stabilizer weighs nearly 2 tons and is integrated with the station's power core. Kate felt the mood in the command deck shift to despair. Then we'll have to be creative, she said firmly. Prepare your team for immediate evacuation. We're docking now. As the Pathfinder connected with the station's airlock, Kate turned to her crew. I know what you're thinking, she told them. The mission parameters just got a lot more complicated. But where I come from, we have a saying. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Let's show the Void Scourge what that means. The research station was a maze of laboratories and equipment, with the dimensional stabilizer at its heart. A massive apparatus of interlocking rings and pulsing energy conduits. The 12 scientists, representing various Federation species, watched nervously as Kate assessed the situation. It took us 3 years to build and calibrate this device, explained Director Lin, gesturing at the stabilizer. Our research suggests it may be the key to understanding, perhaps even neutralizing, the Void Scourge. Kate circled the machine, mind racing. And there's no way to disassemble it quickly? Impossible, confirmed a scientist with metallic skin. The quantum matrices would collapse. Kate checked the time. 5 hours until the Scourge reached them. Ziv, could we boost the Pathfinder's engines enough to tow the entire station? The engineer's scales flattened in alarm. The mass is far too great. We would tear the station apart attempting to move it. Kate nodded, having expected this answer. Then we don't move the station. We shield it. The scientists exchanged confused glances. Shield it? Against the Void Scourge? Director Lin's translucent skin pulsed with anxiety. Nothing has successfully repelled the Void. It consumes everything. Matter, energy, even light itself. Not quite everything, Kate corrected, pulling up data on her tablet. Your own research notes indicate the Scourge has difficulty processing certain quantum states. And from the mission briefing, we know it operates on predictive algorithms. She turned to Dorn. Can you interface with the station's sensors? I need detailed readings on the Scourge's approach pattern. While the science specialist worked, Kate, outlined her plan to the increasingly astonished crew and scientists. We'll create a quantum uncertainty field around the station using modified shield emitters and the dimensional stabilizer itself. If the Scourge can't predict what's here, it might flow around us rather than through us. That's completely theoretical, protested Director Lin. So was the Void Scourge until it started eating star systems, Kate countered. Ziv, I need you to reconfigure our shield generators. Pell, help the scientists gather their essential research data as backup. For the next 3 hours, the station became a flurry of activity. Kate's unconventional approach, combining Federation technology with human ingenuity, yielded a cobbled-together defense system unlike anything the aliens had considered. It's not elegant, Ziv admitted, examining their work. But the quantum fluctuation pattern is unlike any standard defense protocol. The Scourge won't have encountered anything like it. Outside, the darkness grew closer. Through the station's viewports, they could see stars blinking out one by one as the void advanced. 1 hour to contact, announced Dorn solemnly. Kate gathered everyone in the central laboratory. I want all non-essential personnel on the Pathfinder now. Dorn, Ziv, and I will remain to activate the defenses and monitor the results. Director, Lin stepped forward. I must stay with my research. I anticipated you'd say that, Kate replied with a grim smile. But no heroic last stands today. We're all getting out of this. As the evacuation proceeded, Kate made final adjustments to their defensive system. The stabilizer hummed with power, its energy signature fluctuating in an unpredictable pattern designed to confuse the Scourge's analytical capabilities. 30 minutes to contact, Dorn reported, his multiple eyes fixed on the sensors. Kate took a deep breath. Activate the uncertainty field. The modified shield sprang to life around the station, but instead of the usual stable blue barrier, these shields flickered and shifted in patterns that seemed almost random. Geometric shapes forming and dissolving, energy densities fluctuating across the spectrum. It's working, Ziv reported with surprise. The quantum state is maintaining stability while remaining unpredictable. Through the viewport, they watched as the edge of the Void Scourge reached them. The absolute darkness flowed toward the station like an ocean of living shadow. But as it touched the uncertainty field, something unexpected happened. The darkness seemed to hesitate. Tendrils of void probed the shield, then withdrew, as if confused. The main body of the Scourge began to flow around the station rather than through it, creating a bubble of preserved space in the darkness. It's avoiding us, whispered Director Lin in astonishment. Not avoiding, Kate corrected, watching intently. It's trying to analyze what we've done, but our defenses don't fit any pattern it recognizes. We've introduced uncertainty into its predictive algorithms. For 20 tense minutes, they watched as the Void Scourge flowed around the station, occasionally testing the defenses but never breaking through. Eventually, the bulk of the cosmic horror passed, leaving the research station intact within a pocket of normal space surrounded by darkness. We've done it, Ziv said, his voice filled with disbelief. But we're now isolated within the Scourge. How do we escape? Kate's expression remained determined. That's where Phase 2 comes in. Get ready to move, quickly. Phase 2 was never discussed with the Council, Commander Vex stated, his voice crackling over the emergency communication channel they'd established through a narrow-band quantum relay, the only signal capable of penetrating the void. There wasn't time, Kate replied calmly, making final preparations aboard the station. But trust me, you'll want to record this. She terminated the connection before Vex could protest further and turned to her small team. The research station now existed in a bizarre reality, a bubble of normal space surrounded by the consuming darkness of the Void Scourge, which had flowed past but still encircled them completely. The uncertainty field won't hold forever, Kate explained to Director Lin, Ziv, and Dorn. Eventually, the Scourge will adapt to the pattern, no matter how random we make it. We need to move while we still have the advantage of surprise. Move where? Asked Lin, gesturing to the viewports showing nothing but swirling darkness beyond their protective bubble. We are completely surrounded. Kate nodded toward the dimensional stabilizer. That's where this comes in. You said your research involves trans-dimensional physics. Can your stabilizer generate a controlled dimensional fold? The scientists exchanged startled glances. Theoretically, Director Lin admitted. but we've never attempted it on this scale. The power requirements would be enormous. And we'd need a focal point, a destination coordinate, added another scientist. Kate pulled up schematics of the Pathfinder on her tablet. We'll use the ship's power core to supplement the stations. As for coordinates, she pointed to a location on the display. We're going there. Dorn's compound eyes widened as he analyzed the data. That's inside the Void Scourge itself, not behind it or beyond it, but into a region it has already consumed. Exactly, Kate confirmed. All previous attempts to fight the Scourge attacked from outside. No one's ever tried going in. The preparations were frantic but methodical. Kate's plan required precise timing and coordination between the station and the Pathfinder, now hovering just within their protective bubble. The dimensional stabilizer was reconfigured to create a temporary fold in space-time. Not just a portal to move through space, but a momentary bridge between dimensional states. In theory, explained Director Lin as they worked, the Void Scourge exists partially in a different dimensional phase than normal space-time. That's why conventional weapons pass through it. If we can match that phase briefly, we can move through it without being consumed, Kate finished. And more importantly, we can extract your research equipment intact. 4 hours later, everything was ready. The Pathfinder had been docked directly to the station's main laboratory, its power core integrated with the dimensional stabilizer. Everything not essential had been stripped from both the ship and station to reduce mass. Dimensional fold calculations complete, reported Dorn from his station. Success probability is difficult to calculate. There are too many unknowns. That's what makes it human, Kate said with a tight smile. Ziv, status on the structural reinforcements? The engineer checked his displays. The Pathfinder's hull has been modified with the quantum dispersal coating as you specified. If your calculations are correct, it should help us maintain cohesion during transit. Kate took a deep breath and opened a ship-wide channel. This is Lieutenant Mercer to all personnel. Secure for dimensional transition in 2 minutes. This will be uncomfortable. That was an understatement. What they were attempting had never been done before, using the dimensional stabilizer not as a research tool, but as a means to shift an entire station and ship partially out of phase with normal space, hopefully matching the Void Scourge's dimensional frequency long enough to move through it. Powering dimensional stabilizer to maximum, called Director Lin, her translucent skin now pulsing rapidly with stress. The station groaned as energy coursed through systems never designed for this level of output. Alarms blared as structural integrity warnings flashed across multiple screens. 30 seconds to dimensional shift, Dorn announced, his voice steady despite the chaos. Kate strapped herself into the command chair, eyes fixed on the swirling darkness beyond the viewports. On my mark, disengage the uncertainty field and activate the dimensional fold simultaneously. The countdown reached 0. Mark. Reality itself seemed to bend. The protective bubble around the station collapsed as the uncertainty field failed. But before the void could rush in, the dimensional stabilizer activated. The fabric of space-time around them rippled like water, and both station and ship began to phase shift. Every crew member felt it, a nauseating sensation as though their bodies were being pulled in multiple directions simultaneously. Through the viewports, the darkness of the void now appeared different. Less solid, more like an intricate pattern of energy that they were somehow aligned with. "We've matched phase!" shouted Ziv over the groaning of stressed metal. "Activating impulse engines!" The joined station and ship began to move through the Void Scourge, not fighting against it but existing alongside it in a parallel dimensional state. Outside, consumed star systems were visible as faint ghostly impressions, the after images of what had once existed in normal space. "Navigation is compromised," Dorn reported. "I cannot determine our exact position." Kate checked the emergency backup system she'd installed. "Use the quantum beacon. Set course for these coordinates." For 17 agonizing minutes, they traversed the interior of the Void Scourge. Systems failed throughout the station as the dimensional stress took its toll. Crew members suffered nosebleeds and disorientation as their bodies struggled with the unnatural state. Phase coherence failing. warned Director Lin, fingers dancing across controls. We cannot maintain this state for more than 2 more minutes. We don't need to, Kate replied, pointing to the sensor readings. There's our exit point. Ahead, a boundary was visible, the far edge of the void scourge, where normal space resumed. All power to engines, Kate ordered. We're going to punch through. The dimensional stabilizer shrieked as it was pushed beyond all safety parameters. The Pathfinder's engines burned white-hot, propelling them toward the boundary. With a sensation like breaking through the surface of water, they erupted back into normal space, immediately dropping out of the phase-shifted state. Alarms blared throughout both vessels as systems crashed and power fluctuated wildly. But they were through. Behind them, the void scourge continued its relentless advance in the opposite direction, apparently unaware that anything had escaped its consumption. Through the failing communication systems, a Federation emergency channel activated. Commander Vex's astonished voice came through in bursts of static. Impossible. How did you... Directly through the void. Kate allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before responding. Tell the Council the extraction was successful. We've got the scientists, their research, and some valuable data on the Scourge's dimensional properties. She looked around at her exhausted crew, aliens who had just witnessed something unprecedented. And Commander, you might want to start recruiting more humans. The Grand Council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every Federation species had assembled to witness the unprecedented hearing. At the center of attention stood Lieutenant Kate Mercer, still bearing the marks of her ordeal. A healing cut across her forehead, slight radiation burns on her hands, and eyes shadowed from exhaustion. Beside her stood her crew from the Pathfinder and the scientists from HD-197 Research Station, all of whom had been decorated for their part in the mission. The dimensional stabilizer had been successfully transported to a secure Federation research facility where Director Lin now led an expanded team studying the Void Scourge. First Minister Rel called the chamber to order, his ancient voice carrying surprising authority. 3 weeks ago, we sent Lieutenant Mercer on what many considered a suicide mission. Today, we not only celebrate the rescue of 12 irreplaceable scientists and crucial research data, but also recognize the first successful penetration and traversal of the Void Scourge. The chamber erupted in murmurs and exclamations. Commander Vex stepped forward, his posture noticeably more respectful toward Kate than before. The data recovered has already led to significant breakthroughs in our understanding of the Scourge. Director Lin's team believes they may be able to develop a more permanent version of the dimensional phasing technology Lieutenant Mercer improvised. Kate fought to keep her expression neutral despite her fatigue. The aftermath of the mission had been a whirlwind of debriefings, medical examinations, and technical analysis. Her body was still recovering from the dimensional stresses it had endured. Lieutenant Mercer, First Minister Rel addressed her directly. Would you explain to the Council how you developed this strategy? Nothing in your service record suggested expertise in transdimensional physics. Kate cleared her throat. I'm not a physicist, Minister. I'm a pilot with survival training. On Earth, we learn to work with what we have and adapt to circumstances. The scientists had the knowledge. I just helped apply it differently. Science Officer Lortha, who had been analyzing data from the mission, stepped forward. What Lieutenant Mercer modestly omits is that her approach was revolutionary precisely because it wasn't based on established Federation protocols. The Void Scourge had already adapted to our standard defensive and offensive strategies. Ambassador Glissa raised a tendril. Are we to understand that the key to fighting the Scourge is human unpredictability? Not just unpredictability, Kate corrected. Adaptability. The willingness to try approaches that seem irrational by conventional standards. The Scourge operates on predictive algorithms. It anticipates responses based on past behaviors. She gestured to the data displays hovering above the council table. Your own records show the Scourge has consumed 17 worlds, each defended using increasingly sophisticated versions of the same basic strategies. It learned from each encounter. And you suggest we... what? Abandon strategic planning entirely? Asked Commander Vex, his tone suggesting he found the idea absurd. Kate shook her head. I suggest incorporating human thinking into your planning. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us in 1,000 different ways. We survived by being unpredictable, by trying approaches no rational species would consider. First Minister Rel's ancient eyes fixed on Kate. You propose an alliance. I propose integration, Kate corrected. Humans serving on Federation vessels, participating in defense planning, bringing our perspective to your military structure. The chamber erupted again, many voices raised in protest or support. Admiral Jax, who had been silent until now, raised a hand for quiet. The lieutenant's suggestion has merit. Since news of her success reached Earth, I've received over 10,000 volunteer applications from humans willing to serve in the Federation Defense Force. This silenced the chamber completely. 10,000? Whispered an ambassador. For a war many consider unwinnable? Kate smiled slightly. Humans have a long history of fighting unwinnable wars, Ambassador. It's something of a specialty. Over the next several hours, the council debated the proposal. Kate stood silently, conserving her strength, while around her the future of human-Federation relations was decided. Finally, a consensus emerged. First Minister Rel approached Kate, formally. The Council has voted to establish a new division within the Federation Defense Force, the Human Integration Corps. You, Lieutenant Mercer, are promoted to captain and will oversee the training and deployment of human personnel. Kate blinked in surprise. I'm honored, Minister, but I'm just a pilot. You are the human who traveled through the void and returned, Rel corrected. A living symbol of what your species can contribute to our fight. The ceremony that followed was brief but meaningful. Kate accepted her new commission while her alien crew watched with what she'd learned to recognize as pride. Science Officer Lortha presented her with a detailed analysis of how her biochemistry had withstood the dimensional stresses, information that would be crucial for future missions. As the formal proceedings concluded, Commander Vex approached Kate privately. I was wrong about you, he admitted. About humans. Kate offered her hand in the human gesture of reconciliation. After a moment's hesitation, Vex extended one of his upper limbs to complete the handshake. The Void Scourge is still advancing, he noted. Your success has bought us time, but not victory. One impossible mission at a time, Commander, Kate replied with a tired smile. Humans are good at those. 6 months later, the first official Human Integration Corps training facility opened on a Federation space station orbiting Jupiter. Thousands of Earth's best and brightest, pilots, engineers, scientists, and soldiers, arrived to begin a new chapter in interspecies cooperation. Kate, now Captain Mercer, stood at the viewing window watching Federation and Earth vessels dock. Beside her, Science Officer Lortha analyzed data on the latest Void Scourge movements. The Scourge has altered its consumption patterns, Lortha reported. It seems to be avoiding systems where human Federation joint forces are stationed. It's learning, Kate observed. But so are we. Director Lin approached, her translucent skin now healthier after recovery from their ordeal. Captain, the dimensional projection technology is ready for field testing. We've incorporated both Federation precision engineering and human adaptive algorithms. Kate nodded. Good. We'll need every advantage. A young human lieutenant entered the room, saluting crisply. Captain Mercer, the new recruits are assembled for your address. Kate took a deep breath and straightened her new captain's uniform. Through the doorway, she could see hundreds of humans and aliens gathered together in the main hall, all united by a common purpose. Remember when you told me humans were dangerous, Commander? She asked Vex, who had joined them as liaison to the Federation Council. The alien's 6 eyes blinked in acknowledgement. I was not wrong, Captain Mercer. Humans are dangerous, but now, thankfully, to our enemies rather than to us. Kate smiled as she walked toward the waiting crowd. The fight against the Void Scourge would be long and difficult, with no guarantee of success. But for the first time since the cosmic horror had appeared, the Federation had something it had previously lacked. Hope. And as every human knew, sometimes, hope was the most powerful survival skill of all. The end.